All right, and we're back for an episode of the Sports Department Podcast with Justin Valentovic, Stephen Clark, and Jesse Norman, and we're here to break down Week 4 of the NFL season, which, of course, most notably saw Tom Brady going into Foxborough, getting the win against his former team, former coach, and former fan base in the New England Patriots, so we'll get into that, as well as we'll go over our standings in the picks. A little bit more of a closer week, and close the gaps a little bit here and there, but we'll definitely get into the rest of the games as well, which we saw some blowouts, which will be towards the end of the podcast, and some more closer games and some upsets that we'll talk sooner rather than later. So before we get into all of those games, guys, what's going on?
Not much. Football was nice and another good solid week. I thought this week was maybe a little slightly better than last week. The whole Tom Brady thing was the whole talk of week 4, which game was but we'll get into that. But no, I'm happy. Colts got a win. It's a solid week of football.
They put Avengers on Game Pass.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool because I've gone back and forth on if I wanted to buy that game.
You don't have to.
Game Pass on Xbox.
Now I don't
Very
have
good.
to.
Yeah, a lot of good things coming to Game Pass. So definitely get into that if you don't have it already and you want to play games. So, but
Sponsor us,
an ad for
please sponsor. We play enough of the Xbox.
Sponsor us.
But let's talk about our games and that we picked. So this week in picks was a little bit rougher of a week for some of us. And coming in with 12 points, Jesse Norman with hitting his
last. Wow.
Also with 12 points. Stephen Bologna. With 13 points. Me. And also with 13 points, Clark. So no one's in last, no one's in first.
Did I miss my lock? Who did I
you
lock?
hit your lock. You kind of hit a dry spell with
Speaking of the word lock, we'll be talking about that in a couple games.
The Dolphins you differed on. Yeah, there was a few games that you differed on that others didn't.
No. I just wanted to make sure I hit my lock.
Colts got a win. We got the win this week. Look at us.
Word. But in the grand scheme of things for the standings, I'm still in last with 42 points.
I'm still in third
with 47 points.
Yeah.
Bologna's in second with 52 points, and Jesse's in first with 55. So in the grand scheme of things, the points did not change. But with Monday Night Football, you three all had the Chargers, and I took the Raiders. So I could.
You love the Raiders. That's your second team.
Hey,
that's the only reason.
He really is a Raiders guy.
I'm buying into it. I'm buying into it. So
me too. But
we'll talk about Monday Night Football probably never. But let's talk about Sunday Night Football, the main game that everyone actually really cared about, and probably one of the most viewed regular season games in all of NFL history. I would assume so. Haven't looked at numbers, but just the storyline of Tom Brady going back into Foxborough, taking on Bill Belichick, taking on the Patriots, and coming out with a win, 19-17. Very close game. It was the typical Tom Brady game. A lot of rain, a lot of bad weather, him trying to just control the clock, and Mac Jones, for all intents and purposes, played well and kept up with Tom Brady. And with the pressure being as immense as it was with him having to play in Tom Brady's shadow in his homecoming game, he played well. And the Patriots almost won. If Nick Folk or whoever, I think it was Nick Folk, right? That's their kicker, right?
Yeah.
If, he wasn't hitting a 55-yard field goal in driving rain in a hurricane with a bum leg that he plants on to kick, he
56.
probably hits that. And they could have gotten a little bit closer, but Bill elected to take the points, and it came back to bite him as they doinked it in. But Brady got the win, joining the club of Breeze, Favre, and Peyton Manning as the only 3 quarterbacks now 4 to beat every team in the NFL.
Yeah, you said a lot there. No, as much as this game was surrounded by Brady and the homecoming and blah blah blah, all that stuff. I love all that stuff. We don't need to talk about all that. I feel like this is the Mac Jones coming out game. Like this really showed that Mac Jones can fit into this system, and they ran Brady plays. They ran the short little quick releases and the short little out routes, and it worked for a lot of the time. They were driving their offensive drives were short and to the point, and they got in the end zone a lot of the time.
And when the offense wasn't in a monsoon, they pushed the ball downfield well. Like they were able to at least move it.
You can't run against that defense at all, which is every single team so far this year.
But for the most part, with Jones going toe to toe with Brady, he kept up and didn't really make any critical errors. And when it was really bad weather, he didn't turn the ball over.
Tampa has a really serious issue with that secondary.
Oh, they have no one.
Wow. And I mean, that's bad enough that could derail a Super Bowl team. That is.
Well, if you play an offense,
wow.
Look at the main offenses coming out, the Rams, the Chiefs, the Raiders to an extent, the Chargers. There's a lot of
Cardinals.
teams that love to throw the ball. The Cardinals, the Seahawks, if they're going into matchups where they don't have any corners 1 through 5, 6 at this point, they're going to be in a tough situation. And Antoine Winfield Jr. went down later in the game too.
He did.
So they're really banged up secondary wise. And they had to sign Richard Sherman off of his bail bond essentially to go and play corner, which he looked bad. It very well could be, just he had to go out there and play out of necessity and really had no time to acclimate. But even then, he's a 33-year-old corner. So how much can he give you? He's not a number 1 anymore.
Yeah, well, and that's what they were asking him to do, essentially. This Patriots team is pretty inconsistent. This isn't the team that you saw against the Saints. It clearly mattered more to them. And I think that's
absolutely.
fair.
I think Bill probably
Sunday
got
night.
Yeah.
But this Patriots team is pretty inconsistent. Tampa Bay is good. If this is gonna be the team come playoff time, if they can't get healthy, they're not.
Secondary is gonna be a problem.
That secondary is a mess. And here's the thing too, they weren't playing good before they got hurt. So it's not going to, if they just get healthy, everything will just fall back in line. They already weren't playing good. Dallas cut them up week 1. So that's going to be an issue for them.
It's tough, especially with all the good teams out there in the NFC too. And, who knows? I think they'd obviously still win the division, but playoff time.
Oh, for sure. No. This will be a thing that comes up in the playoffs.
January could be.
They have to stay healthy. You said it best.
But if you're throwing Richard Sherman out there as your cornerback 2 in January,
you're running into some problems.
I don't know about that one, man.
Yeah,
I don't
know.
Healthy.
I agree. But my other last takeaway was just Leonard Fournette looked good. That's it for me.
Yeah,
they got they needed a running game bad, and they got it.
And he looked really well. Especially, you got to run the ball in those conditions. You can't blame, Brady, obviously, the nerves, and he missed a couple passes with the weather, but some passes were bad. But then once nerves started calming down and all that, both sides of the ball. But no, Fournette looked good. That's all. That's my only last takeaway.
And a kick away, Patriots walk away with the win, and this game's completely different. But
we would have had maybe a Brady drive then, last minute Brady drive, which would have been fun to see.
Because I think there was about 30 something seconds, give or take, and they had 2 timeouts.
That's what Rodgers had last week. That's what Brady did against Dallas week 1. They would have gotten a field goal probably.
Patriots best signing in the offseason, Matthew Judon. Fantastic.
Great game.
He was living in the back.
All over the place.
Oh,
he was
man.
all over.
He was playing fantastic. A lot of people saw him as only a pass rusher. He shut down many run plays.
Yeah, he had a very good game for the Patriots. So I want to talk about 2 teams that could give the Bucs secondary some problems down come playoff time, which at this rate, these 2 teams could very well make the playoffs. And that is the Arizona Cardinals beating the Rams 37-20. Kyler Murray had a really good game, 268, 2 touchdowns, took care of the ball. And Matt Stafford, 280, 2 touchdowns and an interception. But the Cardinals look good. They're 4-0 and they're clicking at this point. AJ Green, they're getting surprisingly a good amount out of him, which we all thought he was kind of washed when they signed him. James Conner and Chase Edmonds are a nice little backfield duo. So the weapons they put around Kyler are paying off, and they're looking to take the next step. And right now it seems like they are.
Yeah, I'm loving the Cardinals this year. I said I liked them a lot last year. I didn't know exactly where they were trending. I didn't like the Connor signing, but now looking back on it, it is the perfect combo to have Connor and Edmonds as opposed to Kenyon Drake and Edmonds. Connor is a fantastic goal line back who can work early, and then you have Edmonds to, be that explosive player. Christian Kirk has also been impressive. DeAndre Hopkins really has not had a breakout game so far this year. And you really, AJ Green's been
well, and with the numbers too that Murray's putting up, you would think, Hopkins would be having 100-yard games, 150, but he's really just been kind of.
I mean, he's had solid games.
No, he's had good games, like productive games, but not what we're. Well, that's the thing, not what we're used to seeing him put up. That's the thing.
I'm sure he'll have a 200-yard game coming pretty soon.
Probably.
But no, I mean,
when I first in fantasy or something.
Yeah, this Cardinals team is really good. As far as the Rams go, I think
they were just kind of burnt out.
I think it kind of just got away from them, and they kind of were like, all right, let's see if we can get back into it real quick. And then Stafford had a nice ball to, I think it was Higbee, at the goal line, and he just couldn't get under it. And then the Cardinals just went on a super long drive.
Well, and the
I think
Rams
it
too,
kinda
they had 3 awesome games, and could have just been a little bit of fatigue, and they kind of pulled off a little bit because they bludgeoned the Colts, they bludgeoned who they play for, the Cowboys, I think one of the games, right? Maybe, I don't remember their schedule, but they looked impressive.
Bucks.
And the Bucks I think was one of them. So it could have just been a tough divisional game, and coming down a little bit. That's all. I'm not worried for the Rams. I still think they make the playoffs.
I'm willing to call the Cardinals the best team in football right now with the Bucks injuries down, and they beat what I thought was the best team in football, which was the Rams. So I kind of gotta, you beat the champ, you kind of got to give them the belt in a way. So I'm willing, I'm still in the Kyler, MVP wagon. It's going strong right now through 4 weeks. I like this. Like Jesse said, I like this Cardinals team too. They're just fun to watch. They're a really, really fun team.
It's kind of like the Chiefs when Mahomes first broke onto the scene as the first year starter, where they were just electric and just putting up points at a whim. It seems like that's what it feels like again. That Murray can just anything downfield is points right now, and that's
the craziest thing about Murray too, is he can just completely erase your pass rush.
Yeah,
like he can just roll out and nobody can touch him, and he can just make the first and second guy miss so effortlessly that like
it's open season. Then.
It's like insane. It's like, do you blitz him or do you just like set 2 spies?
And he has such a better arm than Lamar too, like comparing to running quarterbacks.
Oh God, no, it's not even a competition. Kyler probably
it's an AK-47 to like a little pistol right there. That's like
Kyler probably throws like a top 5 or 6 ball in the league.
and he has the speed of like the best. I don't know.
If Kyler, awesome. There's a reason that Kyler was the #1 pick, but wasn't talked about that much. If Kyler was like 6'3" or 6'4", people would have been talking Vic about him like he was the next coming of like
Vic.
Yeah, exactly. But because he's shorter and has those limitations,
but they don't look at him that way. And it doesn't matter. And we're starting to learn that you can have a short quarterback and they can win. And you just think he'd be playing center field for the Athletics. Not now. I think he'd still be a few years out, which is oof.
Oh, he'd be a few years away from being a few years away.
That's why I hate baseball minor league stuff.
This is year 3 of his career, right? Year 3?
Yeah.
4? So you would assume he would probably be knocking on the door. He'd probably be in AAA, which would be insane. So just think he could be playing leadoff center field for the Athletics, but he's not. He's lighting it up on Sundays and looking like an MVP, and he'll make a lot more money much faster and do a lot more better things on the football field than he would have done in Oakland. So let's talk about the Jets, which I can't believe I'm talking about them this early in the podcast. And that's because they actually won a game, not just because they won, but they took it and beat the Titans 27-24, took them to overtime. But Coach Rob Saleh, Zach Wilson, that whole dynamic duo got their first win. And it's a big win for the Jets because the Titans, everyone thought they were going to be a top team. And I'm not saying losing the Jets is horrible because the Jets always seem like they get one sneaky win like this. And it's just like, how did that one happen? But the Jets impressively kept up with the Titans and still won.
I will give the Titans the excuse of not having A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, because that is huge, not having them. But the defensive line of the Jets is what stood out to me the most in this game. It looked like almost every time they're either back there, or I know Henry still ran for 150, 160 yards. That's a normal Sunday for King Henry.
That's insane. That it's just like his workload is disgusting. Like the fact that they're okay with giving him 33 carries and the fact that he's down. The fact that has 157 and average 4.8 yards a carry, almost 5 yards, is ridiculous. But also, he didn't even rip off that long of runs. His longest is 22 yards. 22. So it's not like he had his typical like 40 to 50 yard run that he seems to get once a game, and that kind of pads the stats a little bit more. No. But his just workload is ridiculous. And it's just like they're clearly not afraid of him breaking down. But also, Tannehill had a good game, 298 touchdowns. Zach Wilson kept up with them, 297 and 2 touchdowns and an interception. And his Wilson big time thing was only sacked 1 time. Tannehill, on the other hand, sacked 7 times.
That's his defensive line right there. It seemed like the whole game, every time I'd see highlights or anytime red zone would switch over, I would see defensive line made a stop, defensive line got the sack, and they have depth on a defensive line too. So that's exciting to see. And the Jets, like I said, I'm giving the Titans the excuse of not having their, top 2 franchise receivers, but it's the Jets at the end of the day. It's a dysfunctional franchise. Titans who are supposed to run away with this division pretty much for the most part, and the Jets knocked
They're
them off
still
at
going
home.
to.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
they will. But
The Titans front seven's bad.
yeah,
Their front seven's real bad. Their
The fact
back
that they
four's
couldn't-
pretty good.
The fact though that they couldn't hit Wilson with that offensive
Yeah,
line.
because I mean they don't have like
They
a
don't have a
really
pure-
good pass rusher.
I mean, they had Harold Landry, but he's more of a run defender.
Well, yeah, and then you have Bud Dupree, who, when he's not playing next to TJ Watt, look how not
Different
great
he
he
is.
is. And then they have other guys in Jeffrey Simmons, but he's a lot more
Colts
of a
legend
pressure
Nico
guy.
Autry too.
But that front seven's not great. Zach Wilson looked a lot better. I think there's this crazy idea that when a rookie quarterback plays, he tends to get better as the year goes on. So probably let rookie quarterbacks play. It's the best way to actually know what you have in them. And good for the Jets. Also, Michael Carter finally looks like pretty solid of a pick. So that's good for them too.
Yeah. The pieces are slowly coming together for the Jets. So let's keep it in New
They're
York.
going to get rocked again. But
Absolutely. Nice win, though. I'm glad Salah won't lose every single game. So let's stay with the Giants. And they went down to the Bayou and beat the Saints Were they in New Orleans yet? Are they back at the Dome?
Yeah, they were in New Orleans.
They were in the Dome. Yeah.
First home game.
So Daniel Jones took care of the football, had an awesome game, 400 yards, 2 touchdowns, only 1 interception, which was only on a Hail Mary towards the end of a half. So does it really matter? Not too much, but they stayed in it and took it to the Saints and won in overtime. And Daniel Jones only sacked 0 times, which is big for that offensive line.
Only sacked 0 times.
Exactly. He wasn't sacked at all, which that is a major thing for that offensive line, considering they suck and it's one of the worst lines in football. But on the flip side, Winston, 225, a touchdown, also sacked 0 times. So neither pass rush was doing anything.
This is a tough one to analyze because these are two. Again, Giants should have had a couple more. Giants should have been almost like undefeated by now, almost. Like these are a couple of tough teams. Like they're in the same boat. I think both of these teams. I think the Saints are kind of frauds. I don't think the Saints are that good. I mean, Jameis, they both had decent games, but like Giants get their first win against the Saints in New Orleans. You know how hard it used to be to win in New Orleans like that. I don't know. I don't think the Saints are that good of a football team. I think they have a lot of work to figure out. Giants, I do think they're better than what their record says, but they're still not the best.
Barkley still hasn't done much. He only had 52 yards. A
He
touchdown.
had the game winner.
But
yeah, the
yes,
game
exactly.
winner. They finally got him involved in the passing.
But also,
game.
big thing for the Giants, Kenny Golladay, 6 catches, 116 yards. So he finally showed
That's
up.
good.
And Kadarius Toney, 6 catches for 78 yards. And John Ross made an appearance at 3 receptions and 77 yards. So obviously the fact that Golladay, your first round pick, and a waiver claim essentially all kind of contributed while Slayton and Shepard are out is definitely good. Maybe they actually expand it and trust their wide receivers to throw to him because it was a productive day for the offense.
I look at the Saints in a very similar light of the Steelers. They got a big week 1 victory. We thought they were going to be better than they were. They aren't actually that good. They are very limited by their quarterback. They clearly don't believe in their quarterback. They try to take the ball out of Jameis's hands as much as humanly possible. Taysom Hill scored 2 touchdowns here. Once they get into the red zone, they don't want to throw the ball. They feel much more comfortable just either running Kamara, running Taysom Hill.
It seems like
they're
parallel to the Colts with Wentz a little bit, where it's just like if they can run it by any means necessary, that's what they're doing, and try again until it fails. Like it seems like they're okay with Winston, 20 to the 20, but once you get to the 19 and in, it's oh boy, that's where the worries come in, which that's a very big problem. If you can't trust your quarterback in the red zone, he's clearly not the answer then.
They don't trust him. They want to limit him as much as possible. And I think that's fair. I wouldn't want Winston, going out doing whatever he wants to, because he's the only guy we've ever seen do a 30-30 season.
And not the good kind.
So Yeah, I mean, I agree with Clark though. I think the Saints are kind of frauds. They had a big week 1 victory when the Packers just weren't awake yet. We kind of need to throw that game out, look at them for what their schedule is. Yeah, they beat the Patriots, another super inconsistent team. And then they played a team in the Giants who consistently are always trying to lose games, find a way to lose games, and they couldn't even beat them.
And the Saints they'll hang around 500, but they're not going to make the playoffs. It's as simple as that.
They'll beat teams on off weeks.
Yeah,
like they'll
beat the bad teams, but
they'll run
struggle
around
against
you.
good teams.
They'll have weeks where they'll look better than they are, and it's okay to know that they're not actually good.
Yeah.
And okay, cool. So we'll go back to the NFC West with 2 teams. That was a pretty good matchup on paper, which was the Seahawks and the Niners. And at the end of the day, the Seahawks came out with the win. Russ Wilson threw for under 200 yards, 149 yards to be exact, with 2 touchdowns. And Jimmy Garoppolo made the start for the Niners, but he got hurt. And in came Trey Lance. So they both threw for about the same 165 to 157. Lance, at the end of the day, had 2 touchdowns to Garoppolo's 1 and 1 interception. And Trey Sermon got the run game going a little bit for the Niners. So could this be the opening we see to where Trey Lance takes over and the Jimmy G era is officially over? Because if he's out for any period of time, I don't see them going back.
Yeah. Question mark, I guess. I mean, this is the whole Jimmy G story all over again. The guy can't stay healthy. It's the same thing every single time we talk about this guy. But this time they actually have a capable backup where they can rely on Trey Lance. Granted, he's only a rookie, but at least, he's capable compared to whatever they had, Josh Rosen or whoever they had as their backups back in the last couple of years or so.
CJ Beathard, Nick Mullins, come on.
Horrible.
Whoa, Nick Mullins was good.
He had was that a Monday night game where he won the one game?
Threw for like 300 something yards.
Yeah.
Also,
like
Deebo
that.
Samuel had one hell of a game.
Yeah, no, he
8
did
receptions
too.
for 156, 2 touchdowns between 2 quarterbacks. Pretty good.
I mean, fun.
Hope that the Seahawks didn't cover him entirely on like a 75-yard touchdown.
And use check. Hello, welcome back. I mean, it's been silent the first couple of weeks, and all of a sudden, fullback comes out getting a couple of receptions. I'm like, what? But anyways, no, Lance looked fun. He looked a lot of fun.
I just really don't see that. I can't see them going back. I really can't.
I love Lance as the prospect, but we do still need to know that he is raw. He's going to miss passes.
I agree. Well, it's the same thing with Justin Fields, but once the fans see see glimpses, if you go back to the other guy and you start losing or just not doing well, there's going to be some uproar. And I think the Niners are a smart enough organization. They did it with Alex Smith and Kaepernick. They're going to do it again.
That's the thing. We need to see if they're actually better with Lance, because again, as big of a Lance fan as I am, I literally have him in my dynasty league. He was my 1st round pick, and I think he's going to be really good. We need to see how the offense runs with him, because he is a super raw prospect, incredibly talented, can throw the ball, run the ball at this combination that at its peak is like Kyler Murray when he's 6'4". So if the 49ers do have that and he develops in these 2 games, that's the thing. Even if he's bad next game, we've seen Justin Fields play terribly against the Browns and then play much better against the Lions. You need those reps. Zach Wilson has gotten better as the reps have gone on and on. I think if Garoppolo is out, he said himself, hopefully it's just a couple of weeks. If you're starting your timetable a couple of weeks, that means Lance is starting at least 2 games.
Yep.
So I would then at that point think 3, if by the 3rd game, because I think you at that point then have to give him 3 games with the full offense. If that offense is clicking and he's playing really good, you're not going back. Then maybe you can trade him, because if he's healthy, that's right around deadline time.
No, I agree completely. The Niners are definitely in an interesting spot, but this is kind of where we thought they would end up at some point, because with Jimmy G getting hurt, it's never a question of if, it's a matter of when, and it happened now rather than later in the season. So could we see the point of no return? I think so, and Lance could be the starter by the end of the season full time.
Also, the Seahawks weren't going to lose another one.
No, they made sure.
Russell Wilson wasn't going to lose another game. Like, I think that's just the thing that we can kind of accept.
Russ's 100th win too. Big milestone for him. The quickest player in NFL history to get
by
to
8
wins.
8 games. I think
It was Peyton who had it. I think
how productive Pete Carroll and him have been since 2012, which is
And
insane.
dude's never won an MVP, which is so crazy to
Yeah.
think about.
Never
He got
gotten an
a
MVP vote.
Which
That
is
too.
amazing because he was what, a 4th round pick or a 3rd round pick, whatever. He basically
Third.
he was the last out of that whole class, and he's been the best. So
Yeah,
that's
he's
just
the one who stuck
shows
around. No RG3, no luck. Like he's the
Cousins
one
is
who's
in a new land.
Come on, guys. Brandon Whedon.
oh yeah,
Wasn't he like 27 as a rookie? Like he was old.
Yeah.
He was old.
Yeah.
like Joe Burrow.
Word. So
He is an old rookie. He was an old rookie last year.
yeah, he was older than Lamar when he
Like
when
24,
he started.
yeah.
Lamar won an MVP at like 23, and Joe Burrow got drafted at 24. But Joe
There you
Burrow
go.
also redshirted and bounced around his colleges until he could actually find a starting job. Then he had one good season, one for so.
That's true too.
So, Cowboys, Panthers. Close game
Right.
on paper, but it seemed like a blowout for a while. But Sam Darnold, he's thriving a little bit in his new system, which is good. But this was a classic case of a fun team to watch, new spunky team running into just a clearly better team in the Cowboys. And the Cowboys came away with a 36-28 win. But Sam Darnold showing the wheels, accounting for a few rushing touchdowns, I believe.
2, I think.
I think he's already got 4 on the year.
He accounted for all 4 of their total touchdowns, 2 in the air and 2 on the ground. So
him and DJ Moore.
He's taking place of Christian McCaffrey. But then on the flip side of things, Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard are working out really well as a split backfield. And Zeke had a good game, 20 carries for 143 yards with 1 touchdown, but Tony Pollard 67 yards on 10 carries, no touchdowns. But I think it's the perfect balance where Zeke can get the bulk of it, but Pollard can come in and be a capable quarterback. And then also Dak had 4 touchdowns in the air. So I think Dallas is finally figuring out the offense a little bit and not trying to rely solely on Zeke and working in other players. And that balance is what could really make this offense go. And clearly it did.
Yeah. How about them Cowboys? If you ask me, both of these teams are 3-1 now. That was the Panthers' first loss of the year. The Cowboys are the more legit 3-1 team here out of these two. I would say I've liked this Cowboy team. I liked them last year before Dak got hurt. I mean, I think Dak is, the centerpiece of this team. He is fantastic. Like you said, 4 touchdowns, insane. The running game, I loved what they did last week, splitting the carries, and they continue that again this week. And it makes Zeke look so much better and not as washed as he actually is. And then Pollard, like you said, Justin, he just takes the rest of them. Then it works really well.
It's working, and McCarthy's actually it's telling more if we're being honest. Yeah. But they're functioning well on offense, and this is what they had to do.
Yeah, and he went to Jarwin, and he went to Dalton Schultz. I went to his tight ends a lot more than anything.
Just out of nowhere,
and he makes them work. That's the thing, Dak, which is crazy. Like, CeeDee didn't have a game at all. Amari did okay. It was a tight end game, and it's crazy. I just like what this team's doing as a whole. And Trayvon Diggs is honestly proving to be maybe a top 3 or top 2 corner in the league.
It's safety as defensive rookie of the year.
Oh my God.
Justin, he's not a rookie.
Is he not a rookie? I thought he was.
He was a rookie last year.
Wow. Brother of Stephon Diggs. It must be something
well,
in that blood
he's
right
clearly
there.
the defensive player of the year at this rate then.
There you go.
But it's nice that they actually found a corner to replace the Byron Jones and just, the defense, the lack there of secondary help. They just let kind of go by the wayside.
Yeah. Other side of the ball, like you said, it's the Darnold show over there. Never thought I'd say that, but yeah, Darnold is having a season. He's having a great season. I'm enjoying what he's doing. Jets fans, I know they got the win this week, but imagine if they lost.
It's gotta be painful though to watch him thrive a bit more and just be like, what could have been if you actually put a competent coach, competent offensive coordinator, competent players all around him and actual talent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Panthers are a good team, but the Cowboys are
just better. Yeah,
a really good team. Realistically, the Cowboys have outplayed every team they've played. They outplayed the Buccaneers. They did lose because of Brady's heroics, but let's be honest, they really could have won that game. They're going to win that division. They're going to run away with that division. They're really good, and that defense is playing a lot better than I think people are giving it credit for. Because they're actually playing pretty solid. This game was not as close as the score shows. No, they were down by like 3 touchdowns at one point, and I think the Panthers. I think it was 36-14.
Yeah, they played for pride and closed the gap a little bit, though, which is good. Which is what you want to see as a team not give up. So let's talk about one more game before we hit the break and talk about the rest of the slate of games, and that is the Chicago Bears taking on the Detroit Lions, where Justin Fields' first time as a full start, as a second start. Yep, second.
Second.
Didn't do too
And
much.
probably his last.
You think?
Yeah.
11 to 17, 200.
Nagy
yards.
already said if Dalton's healthy, he's the
It's
starter.
So stupid. This is what we were talking about with the Niners, where if you have some productivity from your rookie quarterback, you can't really go back, and they're going back because even though he didn't set the world on fire, he took care of the ball for the most part. Only one interception, but they won the game, and that should really all that matters. And when he was given the ability to make plays, he made plays and looked fun to watch.
I hate to say it, but I kind of agree with Nagy on this one. I think Justin Fields needs to develop a little bit more. I personally wasn't too impressed, especially last week, the week before. This week was a little better, but I wasn't too impressed with Justin Fields. I mean, if you're 2-2 right now, the Bears, if you want to try to win a couple of games, I'd stick with Dalton for now. I hate to say it, I really would stick with Dalton. At first, I was on the side of I'll go with Fields, the young guy. We know what Dalton was like in Cincinnati and how he was at Dallas and all that. But I think that's the safer option right now.
But also at the same time, like, what better experiences you can get by going out there and playing?
That's true. But
also Nagy thinks he's coaching for his job, which is stupid because that's putting them in a situation similar to the Jets with, Gase, Darnold, and that whole crew where they're coaching for their job and doing decisions that aren't necessarily best for the long term of the team rather than just the here and now, which could set the team back a little bit.
Yeah.
Nagy's incompetent. We all agree on that. Like Nagy's just incompetent as a coach.
He is, but
he's a really good offensive coordinator.
I
just think he's a bad head coach.
I'm just not impressed with Fields yet. He hasn't shown me anything that he deserves to be QB1 yet. I mean, they won this week. They beat the Lions, who hasn't won. The only team in the football league besides the Jaguars that haven't won a game yet. I mean, they're a tough team, the Lions, but I mean, you just squeaked out a 10-point win against them.
And Goff played fine again, almost 300 yards, 2
touchdowns. He's playing great.
So at least they have something to work with.
And Cephas being his wide receiver one, and
Jesse's boy Quintez Cephas.
I was a Khalif Raymond guy. That doesn't make sense. But yeah, no. I mean, Justin Fields was fine. He had that really nice deep ball. I think that's the thing that is really interesting about Fields, but Chicago doesn't really use the deep ball very often.
No, they don't like
David Montgomery had a game, but
he got hurt.
It's not supposed to be a very serious injury.
Wasn't it like a
so that's good
or something, or like
I think so.
sprain?
Yeah, he didn't tear anything,
But
so that's
still
good.
A few weeks at that point.
Yeah, it's still at least
2 to
4,
3.
probably at least I would say 4 weeks or something. But I mean, yeah, the Bears still have this capability of being this team that's going to squeak out wins. They've shown that ability with Trubisky over the years where they can win these ugly games against bad teams. The Lions, it's interesting that they only have 14 points because watching the game, they drove on this defense. They got a lot of yards. They had a couple downs and turnovers on downs. And then I think Goff did throw a pick or Swift had a fumble. There were multiple times that it was like, oh, they're going to get points from this drive. And then a penalty killed them or something like that. But they were moving the ball on this Bears defense pretty efficiently. So feels bad that they only scored 14 points.
Yeah. So let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll lead things off with the football team and the Falcons, and then we'll get into the rest of the games. We're about halfway through, so we got a few more to get through, and then we'll be done for the week 4 recap. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back for the second half of the week 4 recap. So we'll just jump right back into the slate of games from, obviously, week 4. So let's kick things off with the Washington football team and the Atlanta Falcons down in Atlanta. And the football team came away with a win. This is the type of game we've talked about it with Steve before, who's not here, but he'll be on an MLB podcast when we do that. That one probably will come out first, so this is irrelevant to me saying it. But this is the type of game similar to like the Vikings, where is Taylor Heinicke bad? Is he good? We don't really know. And at this game, at least, he showed he's pretty good, and he has the capability of being at least a quarterback in the short term, maybe not long term, but he can win them some games, and he kept them in it, and he won this game. So good job for the football team. They needed a win.
Yeah, both quarterbacks played well here. Falcons blew the lead. That's nothing new that we're used to. But now that he made a couple of outstanding plays, Heinicke, I think he kind of earned that starting job after this game when if and when Fitzmagic comes back. Kind of like an afterthought now. If you think about it,
Yeah.
Fitzmagic kind of like forgot about him at this point.
You know, what this is doing for Heineke is like if they find their quarterback, whoever that may be, he's showing that he can be their Nick Foles and be a competent backup they can go to and keep them in games because he clearly knows the system. He clearly can make plays in the system. And clearly, you know, Gibson, JD McKissick, Terry McLaurin, most importantly, trust him throwing them the ball. So offensively, they can work with him in there now, maybe not as a long-term starter, but in a pinch start here and there, he could get the job done.
Yeah, he's guaranteed himself a contract for probably at least the next 10 to 15 years in the league. So that's good. Good for him. The Washington defense is bad. This Atlanta offense
Bologna,
hasn't
you know,
good.
he's not here, but he's been telling me he's been calling for Jack Del Rio to get fired already. 4 weeks in, he wants him gone.
Ooh. Well,
Which
somebody
I don't know if that'll
somebody
happen.
in the Washington organization is getting fired.
Yeah.
Ooh. But no, this Washington defense is bad. I don't think there's any other way to go about it. I said it
they
last
love their
week,
front set, their front four, but like after
that's
them,
it.
Jamie Davis has been playing well, but their secondary is brutal. You know,
Yeah, William
Brandon Collins
Jackson, I
is a
thought was
horrible
really supposed
contract.
to.
You know, Jackson fine, but it's just like they just get burnt. Like Cordell Patterson, who's technically a running back now, but
Yeah,
he's
what the
technically a
hell?
wide receiver. Doesn't matter. He went off and had a hell of a fantasy day. So he was
Back to back weeks, I feel like too. He did solid the
he had
last
3
week, too.
touchdowns this week. So screw you, Calvin Ridley. We know who Matt Ryan likes the most right now.
So stupid.
It is. It is very stupid.
So dumb. It's so Falcons. It honestly is just so.
He's
Falcons.
a typical gadget guy who's thriving. Kyle Pitts didn't do too much either, but Calvin Ridley under 100 yards receiving again, 7 for 80. So I don't really know what's going on with the Falcons. You know,
they're bad.
No, I know they're bad, but it's just like
That's it.
at least looked halfway decent. You know, you got Christ himself as a coach now. You know, according to
Jesse. They put up 30 points. What do you mean they looked bad? How are you guys just crapping on?
They're both bad. Both
defensively they looked horrible.
They're two bad teams. They're two bad
defensively
teams.
They looked terrible, but offensively, I mean, they both looked good. I mean, you can't hate on a team that put up
Matt Ryan
points.
could very well have been playing against his future team at this rate.
So, I hope so. I hope so for him.
Maybe we'll go to Pittsburgh.
Oof. Yeah, Ryan though can still sling it a little bit.
Now Rodgers, baby, you see that? You see that interaction they had?
Tomlin, a little eye wink and a dream.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you would go from a 40-year-old Ben Roethlisberger to a 38-year-old Aaron Rodgers? Still an upgrade.
Yeah.
I mean,
still an upgrade.
Still an upgrade. Yeah, you're going from the 32nd best quarterback to like a top 5 quarterback.
So, anything else on this game?
Like any good teams.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anything else on this game?
No.
Justin gets mad when our teams win because he doesn't like any good teams, so he just gets angry.
Like no good teams.
Speaking of teams that I like that suck, let's talk about the Colts. They went down to Miami with everyone being hurt, no offensive line, barely a defense, and they went in there and they played Jacoby Brissett So the first quarter, my audio just started playing from an ad, so that kind of screwed me up a little bit. First quarter, Jacoby Brissett looked like he was actually about to beat the Colts a little bit. And then I don't know what happened. They just kind of stopped. And then Brissett struggled and looked like the Jacoby Brissett we know and hate from his days in Indianapolis. Carson Wentz was at least able to move around a little bit, and he's looking a little bit better. And Jonathan Taylor got his rear in gear and put up 100 yards. And Michael Pittman still looks to be Wentz' favorite target. And then on the defensive side, Jalen Waddle, or not defensive side, flip side with the Dolphins, Jalen Waddle, pretty good wide receiver. And Devontae Parker was bitching Xavier Rhodes with every chance he had.
This game is not as close as it looked. It was like 20-3 at one point, I think, the score. Then they had a little comeback ski in like this fourth quarter.
They made it interesting and started sweating a little bit.
But no, finally got a win, so that felt nice for the Colts. Dolphins, I mean, they're a mess right now from top to bottom. I mean, Jacoby didn't look too hot. Tua, when he comes back, I don't know if he's going to be too hot. But no, you said everything on the Colts side pretty well. I mean, Carson looked all right.
The biggest thing for the Colts, no one got hurt in the game.
Yeah.
We had a scare with Ryan Kelly, but he just ripped his shoe and he was limping. So we thought, oh God, there goes our center. And we would just have Eric Fisher with a bunch of bums. But as a whole, for the most part, at least the O-line kept Wentz alive for a little bit, but boy, sometimes when that pocket collapsed, he was dead. But he can move a little bit more, so that's the main important thing. But it's going to suck because he's going to play the snaps and we won't make the playoffs. So bye first round pick.
Colts should have ran the ball more, like a lot more.
They should. I know.
Honestly, to save the snaps, they should have just benched Wentz, put Eason in, and
Run it.
ran. You know what they should do on running downs? They should put Eason in.
That'd be awesome.
That'll save like 40. That'll save like
That'll-
40 downs.
That'll save a good amount of downs, and then Wentz isn't playing the snaps, and then you get the first round pick. Right.
I think-
okay.
I think-
I think I'm really onto something.
I think
there.
there'll be some.
are.
I think there will be some tomfoolery down the stretch, though.
Especially if we start stinking because our
Yeah.
schedule doesn't get any easier. After
I'm just
this
waiting for the
Baltimore.
catastrophic injury. Like I can't wait for him to like tear something. Like that's gonna happen. I feel like, but good win for the Colts. They needed it. They, their season's probably dead anyway, but at least it gives them some motivation. They're going into Baltimore Monday night. I'll be there.
You'll be
So-
there.
So that'll be fun. Can't wait for that. Oh,
I
God.
feel like Miami's gonna get desperate and might make a Deshaun Watson trade.
Oh,
I think it's getting there. I think it
I
really will
think
get there
they
at some
might
point.
do it
But then at that point,
because
the
honestly,
second they activate
I'm
him, they might
sorry
just
if
suspend him.
if you take Deshaun Watson and all the issues
crap that
aside and
you're
everything,
asking for.
if you're looking at just him, the fit on the Dolphins, it's the perfect fit because he makes it so that their terrible offensive line no longer matters because he can run around. He fixes
a lot of their
all of their
problems.
issues. He fixes all of their offensive issues. That obviously comes with that other baggage, and you don't know how that trade's going to look. But I think they are really looking at
Because
it.
it seemed like he was going to go to Philadelphia, but Hurts has proven that they might have something good brewing with him. So it's
That's
like,
Now,
wow.
at this point, if I was the Texans and the Eagles came to me with any deal
take it.
that included Hurts
You gotta
and
take it.
picks,
You
I
gotta
would take it.
But I'm
I
just
think
saying, though,
Hurts
the
is
Eagles-
absolutely the best
I
prospect
think the Eagles,
you would
though,
get.
I think the Eagles, though, are past the point of flirting with the idea of Watson.
I don't know. I've heard they're back in on him again too. There's
it's
I don't
gonna
know,
be
but
one
the
of these
Watson
teams.
rumors always start
It's
up
going to be
again,
one of these teams.
and then
guys.
they die again.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see if he's ever even able to play again.
I hope not.
Yeah.
Doesn't deserve it. He doesn't.
What?
He doesn't deserve to.
No, he
If
doesn't,
All
not
these
at
things
all.
are true.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's
Get
going
him
to be in the
outta
league
here.
if
Get him outta here.
if any of it. And if one of the cases come back true,
Yeah,
it
get him
doesn't
out
matter.
of here.
But we don't want to keep talking about that. So let's switch gears to the game Vic Fangio included had some opinions on, and that is the Baltimore Ravens and the Denver Broncos. Ravens went up to Mile High and they won 23-7. Lamar had a good game in the air, 316 for a touchdown. And then he also ran the ball for 7 for 28, so nothing too much on the ground. Big takeaways, obviously, of course, Teddy Bridgewater got hurt early in the first quarter, I want to think too. So it was the Drew Lock game as well, and possible concussion for Teddy Bridgewater. And we got the same old song dance with Drew Lock, barely 100 yards, an interception, and just the offense died all around him. See it on the scoreboard, see it on the stat sheet as well. But obviously the big takeaway is the Ravens were 3 yards short of getting 100 yards for a consecutive game, which would, I think, tie the NFL record of however many games that is.
Yeah.
All they had to do was kneel the ball and get out of there. But if they kneeled it, negative 2 yards streak would come to an end, 95 yards, so forth. So they did a quarterback power option and ran it with Lamar, got the 3, took the knee, and then ended the game. Vic Fangio said this was bullshit, basically. That's literally his quote.
Exactly.
He said it is
Exactly.
bullshit. And he said they expected it. He said just he knows how they operate and they don't care about player safety, and that's second to stats, basically. So some venom coming from Vic Fangio. Now, what do you guys think sportsmanship-wise and just in general about the Ravens running it to keep the streak alive, which no one really gives a shit about other than them, it seems like.
Sportsmanship wise, horrible, but who cares? You're like who
It's 3 yards.
I'm
It's not
okay
they
with
ran
them
it for a
doing
touchdown. It was 3 yards.
No, I'm okay with them doing it. I mean,
Also,
whatever.
they ran it from like their 25, so it's not like they were on like the 5 of the Broncos and just ran it in for a touchdown and made it 30-7 anyway, like just
No.
to kill them all around stat wise. It was just, but still, it's just like, who cares?
Who cares? It's salty old man Fangio. Like, dude,
They're
it
still
doesn't
both teams
matter.
are still 3-1. You have bigger fish to fry. Your main quarterback is the reason why you were 3-0 going into this game's hurt. You back to Drew Lock.
That's the bigger problem out of this. Yeah, no, Bridgewater hurt. I think it was a concussion, but he's hurt. I mean, if Locke's taking over this team, they're to stink
done.
again.
Yeah,
They're
their
gonna
season's
stink.
dead.
Yeah. No, Fangio made too big of a deal out of it. Whatever. They did a 4-yard run at the end of the game. Great, cool. You got a 4-yard run. Not even a first down, just a 4-yard run, not a touchdown.
That's what I'm saying. It's not like they ran it and got points or kept running for the sake of running. They ran it and went down.
And they went down out of bounds. Yeah, no, I'm fine with that. Whatever. It's a personal record for them, trying to beat the record. They'll probably break the record next week, because you know how much Lamar runs and all that.
And they're playing the Colts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You have to see that live. Look at you.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You have to pay your hard-earned money to go watch that.
God, that game's gonna be just so painful to watch. The Ravens are gonna. I hope they wear their black uniforms on Monday night. That'd be hot.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
I got nothing with this game. Jess, you got anything?
So Vic Fangio wanted to throw a little temper tantrum.
Yes, he did.
About this rushing yard record. Does he want to talk about and he wants to talk about player safety? Old man, you were so worried about the record that you were calling your timeouts so that the Ravens had to keep kneeling. Player safety? Are you joking me? You were trying to make your players continue to play while every single snap they were taking on the kneel downs. You were worried about the record. You were worried about that, not the Ravens as much as you were. You called your timeouts at the end of a game where you were down, 15 points? It was done. It was over. You're talking other people being immature. That was you, buddy.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I had nothing to debate that with. No, you're right. You're just right. Salty old man. That's all he is.
Get off his lawn. But
Drew Lock's bad, by the way,
and that's why
I think it was also
more. I think it was also more. He was pissed that Bridgewater went down, and in theory, you could blame the Ravens, even though it's just a play that happens, and it's not like they were directly taking off his head like Bountygate, but it's just like worry about the bigger issues, bud, and move on.
Yeah, and how I feel about the Steelers, and obviously the Broncos defense is really good, and they're going to have their issues.
So speaking
about, I don't know if I can pick the Broncos against the Steelers with Drew Lock. Drew Lock's terrible.
So you want to talk about the Steelers right now, Jesse? Because we are.
Sure.
I don't care what you think. We're doing it anyway. So Packers, Steelers. Jesse locked up the Packers going against his own team.
That's fantastic.
Taking a page out of my book with the Titans, which I did.
And it was the best. And I literally didn't sweat it.
Yeah.
Not once.
No, Packers looked really good, and Ben looks really, really, really old.
Jesse, you can take the load.
Take it away, Jesse.
I've already said it all.
I don't care. Say it again.
Ben's old. The offense is terrible. The defense is banged up and can't keep playing at this rate.
I wish that blocked field goal that Mick got a touchdown on, it didn't get called back.
At least your groin massage for TJ Watt.
He was onside.
I didn't think he was offside.
Oh no,
they were both.
They were both.
They were moving as the ball was moving.
Yes, it was a clean play. That got me upset when they got called back.
Here's the thing. I don't think it would have made that much of a difference. Also, if it did make a difference, it's because that's how the Steelers need to win a game at this point.
Their defense needs to come through and make the plays.
The special teams, the defense needs to be impeccable and make plays because the offense can't do anything besides these 1 to 2 drives a game here and there where they splash a play here or there. That's it. That's the offense.
The funny thing is that you're going to get after next week, because we said you guys are playing the Broncos next week, and most likely Drew Lock's going to start. Steelers probably going to win next week. You're going to get all the people saying, "Oh, the Steelers are fine. Look at Big Ben.
Look at them. They beat the good Broncos.
Look at that. You beat the once undefeated Broncos. Look at that. We're back."
I honestly don't even know if Teddy doesn't have a concussion and Teddy plays. I don't even think it's a competition.
No, it's not.
I think they smoke them.
Oh baby. Good.
Good for the Packers. Like this,
they're the fluke.
This is a bad team. Like that's all I can say about Pittsburgh at this point. This is a bad team. If you're playing Pittsburgh, you should win.
Will you see the first losing season in Tomlin's tenure?
Yes, you have to.
I think it's very possible.
Have to. I don't think there's a way around it unless Ben gets hurt. Haskins comes in and plays like the first round pick he once was. I don't think
so. It won't happen.
I don't think like there's
welcome to the Losers Club, Jesse.
First Losers Club. Now on the other side of the ball, Packers proved that week 1 was a fluke.
Oh,
They're fine.
absolutely.
They're
They
fine.
they shook the rust off. They got it together. They're moved on. They're good to go. Like this team's good. We're fine. They're
Yep.
fine.
Oh, also they lost like the Chargers signed Corey Linsley in the offseason, gave him this huge contract. Good for them. Their line looks good. Packers don't care. Their
No,
line
they
just always good.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're just always good.
Beluga, Lindsay, they just Lang sitting. They
I
just
don't even
lose
think
line.
Bakhtiari's playing right now.
No, they just produce linemen out of nowhere. It doesn't matter. So Kansas City, Philly. We talked about Jalen Hurts a little earlier in the pod. He had a great game. He kept pace for the most part as well as he could with what he has around him with Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. 387, 2 touchdowns in the air. So the arm, clearly it's there. People were worried about it. He can throw. He's fine. Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs. Tyreek Hill had a typical Tyreek Hill game we thought he'd have. Hasn't had it all this season, but he broke out finally out of his slump. Thank God for me, fantasy-wise. Needed that. 11 receptions, 186 yards, 3 touchdowns
You're
on
undefeated.
Mahomes.
Shut up. You're undefeated.
You're undefeated.
Hey,
You don't need that.
Eckler got hurt, and I could've
I'm
lost.
1-3.
I can
I'm
still
1-3.
lose. First of all,
Yeah. I don't want to hear, I needed that. I needed Tyreek to put up 400 yards and score 10 touchdowns in that game. I really needed that. I need to stay undefeated. I need it to be Miller time.
It could
No,
be 4 times soon. I hope so.
Good.
Anyways, now I mean, great game by the Chiefs. We all know they're a great team. Eagles.
They need a lot of help, but
I'm shocked they stayed that competitive as they did. I mean, it was a high scoring game that shows how bad the Eagles defense is. But Hurts impressed me a lot, almost 400 yards. He just looked good. He, like you said, he can throw the ball, he can sling it. Devonta Smith looked great too. Another great game.
Yeah,
for
they
him.
have some chemistry together, which is good. It's amazing that an Eagles quarterback actually has a competent wide receiver that can produce and catch the ball.
Not any of those other bums. Like what was it? What's his name? I think he's still
JJ
there.
Arcega-Whiteside.
Quez Watkins is still there.
Whiteside.
Yeah, Quez. Oh my God.
Quez Watkins.
Quez Watkins.
Jalen Rager.
And all those bums. But no, the way to stay competitive, but still not the best. This Eagles team, their defense, gave up 42 points.
But at least they gave them they gave the Chiefs a game, and that's all you could ask for.
There you go.
Yeah, they went for it on 4th down a couple times, which I think is interesting, and teams should start doing more against the Chiefs. If you have an opportunity and like it's 4th and short and you're around midfield, honestly, just do it, because the Chiefs can just score so quickly, especially when they were on like this game. Like it was, you could tell from the first quarter, like the Chiefs were taking this game seriously. So at that point, you needed to be on. You knew they weren't going to sleepwalk through this game. So go for it on 4th down a couple times,
Yeah.
Screw it. What do you got to lose?
F it. Right.
There you go.
Yeah. So we got 3 games left to go. We're in the home stretch. So let's just kind of get through these games because they were probably the worst games of the entire week and borderline unwatchable for some of them. So let's kick
Especially
things.
This one.
Yeah. Browns, Vikings. Browns 14, Vikings 7s. Boy, not
I
the
got
score.
this one, guys.
There you go.
Browns defense is like legit. Like
good.
it's really good. The Browns defense, honestly, low key. That's why, Clark, what you said earlier about the Cardinals being the best team in the NFL, I don't know, man. It might be the Browns, low key. That defense looks so good.
They
Garrett
covered up
so good.
They covered up Baker having his worst game of his
Horrible
career
game
without
for
an interception.
I have to wonder if his arm is still is bothering him.
Well, also
Probably.
he doesn't have Jarvis Landry, which we've seen.
They don't have a receiving core right now.
Well, they got Odell, but Odell.
I was gonna say Odell's not a one-man receiving core though.
No.
Higgins
Especially
can't be
not.
here, too.
It's clear though that they have the chemistry between Mayfield and Landry the most. Like that's who he trusts the most.
Yeah.
And he was
but
struggling
they
trying to find
grinded
other
out
targets.
this game.
A lot of drops though too.
Yeah. The Vikings are still not a good team. The Browns defense swallowed up that offense. They got a lot of chances to come back in this game. A lot of them, and they blew them all.
Yeah, they scored the first 7 points of the game. Oh, that's it. No, they're not, like you said it, Jesse. Vikings stink. Browns are great. Defense is fantastic. Baker, bad game. I have nothing else to say with this game.
Cool. So let's work things all the way back to Thursday night, first game of the week.
Oh.
And it was a brutal matchup to watch on paper, but an all right
solid.
game
It
to
was
watch.
solid.
The 0-4 Jacksonville Jaguars now lost to the Cincinnati Bengals, who are now 3-1, 24-21. Trevor Lawrence continues to have the rookie struggles just a little bit, mainly just because he has nothing around him. And Joe Burrow, him and Jamar Chase, who would have thunk it? They're really good together. 348, 2 touchdowns. Jamar Chase, 6 receptions, 77 yards, no touchdowns, but Tyler Boyd had a lot of catches. So, and, Joe Mixon's fine as a running back. So the offense is at least working for Cincinnati. Now they still need help a lot defensively, but, good for Burrow, bouncing back from a bad injury last year and looking well. And God, I feel horrible for Trevor Lawrence because he's going to struggle and have this type of career for a while.
Yeah, speaking of Trevor Lawrence, they led the whole game, the Jaguars, until like the final buzzer when Bengals scored the game-winning field goal. I don't like the way they run that offense at all.
It's just not fun
all
to
this
watch.
read
It's
options
so
with Lawrence
bland.
running the ball is just weird. Like I don't like seeing Lawrence run the ball.
He never really ran in
is.
college. Like I remember when he ran
No.
in the game against LSU in the title game, for God's sakes, he ran for like 30 yards. Everyone's like, "Whoa, Trevor Lawrence is mobile now." It's like, yeah, he doesn't do that.
No,
And nor
like he's
should
not a
he.
Fields or Lamar or Murray or any of like these running quarterbacks. He's not even like a Josh Allen to an
No.
extent. Like
I don't want him running. I
No,
want him to
and he-
stay in the pocket.
and all the read option plays. I mean, granted, he got a rushing touchdown, I think, here. But just it was too much. I don't like the way this offense is run. And obviously, Urban Meyer had his nice little weekend, got away from all the football, had a
Little
little
night
fun
out.
time out.
And a little night out.
He
little
is
night out.
trying to
Some
get
people
fired.
were trying to get him to go on the dance floor.
He is trying to get
Yeah.
fired. Like
He's a smart man in that sense. Not
That
on
took
not on the football field. He's not a smart man because I don't like the way this offense is run. Defense stinks. But off the field, hey, if that's the way to get fired, he's doing a good job at that at least.
oh boy, what a mess.
Yeah, I mean the
Jacksonville.
Bengals are kind of good, maybe.
Maybe
Who knows?
don't
I
know.
mean, we know Burrow's good.
Burrow's good, and like Justin said, Jamar Chase is cool, and Tyler
Yeah.
Boyd had a game, and Mixon's
Yeah,
okay.
Tyler Boyd had
Mixon
had
didn't
a
look
good
half
game.
bad.
The Jags, still kind of look like the Jags, and they're young, and I think maybe eventually they'll probably get it together. Maybe, by week 16 or 17, they'll possibly start looking like a real football team. It's going to take a lot of work. Yeah.
They have.
I really
a lot of
like
work.
Lawrence, but man, he's got a lot to overcome.
And I feel bad for him because if he busts, It
Man,
could be
could you
because
imagine
they're-
this Clemson team with him this year instead of DJ Ukulele?
well, now he knows what it feels like to lose. Poor guy. And we're here at the final game of week 4 and the worst game to watch because
Nothing to say.
nothing happened on one side for an entire team, and that is the
Interceptions
Texans.
happened.
The Texans going out there and getting blanked 40-0 to the Bills. Davis Mills looked like a 4th-round pick with no help and no training camp and no time to work. 4 interceptions, 3 sacks, 87 yards total, so nothing. Josh Allen, 248, 2 touchdowns. They don't have to do much. The defense went bonkers, basically. And we saw a Mitchell Trubisky sighting, so that's
Got
cool.
a rushing touchdown. The Nick MVP right there. The MVP got in. That's my takeaway from the game. That's all I was really going to say was Trubisky got in and he got a rushing touchdown. And the Bills are a very good football team. And the Texans are not. That's all I got on this one.
Davis Mills' neck is like long. It's like weird.
long boy.
Long
Yeah,
boy.
it's oof.
They tried to make him throw as little as possible, and then even then he still threw so many interceptions.
It's just he's in a horrible
Um,
situation. Like no one can succeed on that
No,
game.
he shouldn't even. Here's the thing:
He
like
shouldn't
he
be
shouldn't
playing.
even be playing.
No, they should have
Um,
had an actual. Well, they did have an actual backup behind Watson
They
and
did.
Tyrod Taylor, but they should have once they knew Watson wasn't playing, sign
Cam
somebody.
Newton's still out
Yeah.
there.
Anything. It's like clear they
Well,
wanted. They're
now
tanking for
at this
number
point,
one.
they
Hell,
might as
Colin
well have
Kaepernick's
just-
out there. Take him.
At this point they might as well just keep losing and just
Yeah,
get the high
tank for
draft
one.
pick. But
How they
I
win?
mean-
Like what game did they? Who would they?
They're to
beat?
beat us. They'll beat
Who,
us.
who they? Win?
they'll win a game.
Oh,
No,
they
they-
already did.
Yeah, they have.
Oh
one,
yeah.
Was it Minnesota? I want to say it's like Minnesota, right?
No,
It was week
it's
1. Who they
Jags.
play week
The
1?
Jags.
Oh, the Jags. That's
Jags,
right.
yeah, the
that
Jags,
explains
yep.
it.
They'll wind
Tyrod
up beating
looked
us one
good.
time too. They'll beat us one time because just
They looked good against the Browns too until Tyrod went down.
Yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, bad team. Simple as that.
Yeah, sad.
team versus-
Davis Mills is not a good. He's not going to be.
No.
That's when you play a young quarterback and you immediately know, okay,
He's not
that guy is
Sucks.
a backup at best.
if that.
Long
Practice
neck's not going to
squad.
work out.
Yeah,
If
no,
that.
it won't work out. So that wraps up our week 4 recap. We're going to be doing some baseball podcasts and definitely some NBA ones too, because Jesse, basketball season starts.
Preseason starting right now, baby.
Yeah. So
I'm hyped.
NFL picks pods might get put
30-point
on the-
Nets win, baby.
I think Heat are still playing right now.
So
Hey, on the
yeah,
road to the chip, right, Jesse?
Give Cam Thomas his Hall of Fame plaque already.
So NFL picks pods might take a backseat just because playoff baseball is a thing and NBA is starting and NFL recaps. So those will come back when we have time to fit them all in, and some wrestling, of course, in the mix as well. So
Sure.
yeah. So Clark, whenever we release podcasts and whatever we talk about, when can people listen and watch them and
Yeah,
where?
listen, watch YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify. You can follow us on our social medias on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Sports Depth Pod. That's Sports DEPT Pod. Justin went through the rundown, all that sports stuff. Like he said, football might be taking a little bit of a backseat, just for picks, not recaps. Yeah, no, it's playoff time. It's exciting time. No game 160 3. Just wild card and then divisional, all that fun stuff. Lot of exciting baseball content. So stay tuned to all that fun stuff, and we'll see you in the next episode.